Okay, well, thanks for coming out today and showing us all love and giving us support. It means a lot. So, in the midst of an existential crisis, as most first-year college students experience, trying to find something to grab onto that's of interest, I reached into my backpack to find a pencil or something, an eraser, and I pulled out rocks, twigs, and plant matter that I'd collected on a recent hike. So it was then that I realized, maybe this is a sign. Maybe this is something that I had been carrying around my whole life, and maybe I should pursue it. So I am now currently attempting to pursue a major in earth science, specifically geology, and I'm really interested in landslides and volcanoes and how humans interact with the natural environment and how, in turn, the natural environment has an impact on humans. So while at Shoreline Community College, I had the privilege of choosing my research topic, and with my interest in geology and earth science, I chose the topic of wastewater injection in the Southwest and Midwest United States. I chose Dr. Emma Agosta as my faculty mentor, and she helped me get scientific resources and formulate a thesis that I could answer in full. So before I begin, I'd like to thank Dr. Emma Agosta and my professors, Brooke and Terry, for helping me along with this process. So in my research, I attempted to answer the question, really, of whether or not fossil fuel-related wastewater injection is triggering seismic activity and water contamination in these regions. Sounds like a really long phrase, but I'll explain it. So if you're wondering, wastewater is a byproduct of fossil fuel-related extraction. It is composed of toxic materials and a really, really high concentration of salt water. It's pumped so deep into the ground that it surpasses the lowest levels of groundwater, and it's incredibly expensive to purify. So that's why they do it, is because really they don't have the time and the money to do anything else with it. Naturally occurring earthquakes are different from triggered earthquakes. So naturally occurring earthquakes are organic movement along fault lines. Some of you are in geology and you're learning this right now. Whereas triggered earthquakes are when a pre-existing fault or a brand new fault is triggered by an exterior activity. In this case would be wastewater injection and drilling. So Oklahoma, both Oklahoma and Colorado, which I'll be talking about, have a really long-standing history with the oil and gas industry. Since the mid-1800s, they've been doing this. And within these processes, they've begun to experience some pretty strange effects. I initially became interested in Oklahoma's situation because it stood out to me from the rest. There was a direct increase in seismic activity. So here I have some numbers up for you. These are earthquakes above a magnitude 3.0 in Oklahoma alone in the past 5 years. So we have 200, in 2013 there were 109, in 2014 579, in 2015 903, and in 2016 there were 623, not 923. So here's a map indicating in red where the earthquakes are in proximity to the injection well sites in blue. So you can definitely see a direct correlation here. I'm interested to see what's going to go on here in the next couple of years. This is a map from 2015, so it's been a couple of years. So I haven't been able to find any other maps since, but I'd be interested to see what goes on in the near future. So Oklahoma, in particular, has become aggressive in their attempts to stop these quakes. They've developed multiple types of procedures to shut down wells after earthquakes have occurred. They are now requiring reports on the amount of injection or the amount of wastewater that's being injected, and they've begun limiting the amount that is injected. They've also developed a traffic light approach, so like green is like we're good to go, things are safe, yellow is like maybe, and then red is like no, we cannot inject here anymore. They've also limited permits in certain areas, but unfortunately with powerful people in the oil and gas industry, they can get around these pretty easily. Colorado is another example. I'm more concerned with their water contamination than I am their seismic activity, though they have had their fair share. So Colorado uses Class 2 disposal wells, which is what Oklahoma uses, where they just pump it really deep into the ground. But they also use open air pits for evaporation, which can affect air quality. In 2013, there was a flood that damaged a drilling epicenter, causing a spill of over 48,000 gallons of oil and 43,000 gallons of wastewater. That's just incredible to me. Here are some quotes that I found from Kyle Farrar. He's with Frac Tracker Alliance. It's a blog where they kind of day by day figure out how much wastewater is being injected. And I will read it off to you because the numbers are incredible. So in 2015, Colorado injected a total of 649 million barrels of oil and gas wastewater back into the ground. That's over 27 billion gallons, which would fill over 41,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. And then it's injected deep into the ground where it has remained forever and removed from the water cycle. The EPA also estimates that over 2 billion gallons of brine, which is salt water, and that's related to wastewater, is injected every day into the United States. 2 billion gallons. Think about how much water that is. It's crazy. So politics play a huge role in this. These are the people that have control over these policies, and they're not really doing much, it seems like. So many residents in these states, Colorado and Oklahoma specifically, believe that their leaders aren't really doing much. For example, Governor Mary Fallin of Oklahoma, on I think it was September 8th of 2016, so what, 7-8 months ago, maybe a little bit longer, Governor Mary Fallin created a day called Oilfield Prayer Day, where citizens of Christian faith in Oklahoma are, quote, invited to thank God for the blessing created by the oil and natural gas industry and to seek his wisdom and ask for protection. Let's just let that sink in, that they're praying for oil rather than praying for water, which I think is rather fascinating and pretty incredible. And Governor Mary Fallin, she fails to recognize that the oil industry has damaged these communities and damaged the planet. And it's just baffling to me that our own leaders can say these kinds of things. Another example is Scott Pruitt. I'm sure you've heard of him. He's actually the former Attorney General of Oklahoma, and he is now the head of the EPA. Okay? He has filed lawsuits against the very administration that he is appointed to head, and has been completely silent on this issue. The EPA website states that it regulates the construction, operation, permitting, and closure of injection wells used to place fluids underground for storage, or disposal. So if they're not doing their job, then what are they doing? It's just baffling to me. And luckily for us, citizens, despite the silence of elected officials, are not staying silent. They have been filing lawsuits and protesting. For example, on behalf of the Sierra Club, Whites and Luxembourg have filed lawsuits against several energy producers. So these are big companies. In Payne County, Oklahoma residents, whom I've been following on Facebook directly, I've attempted to get into contact with them, but it's rather difficult as I am a student in the Pacific Northwest and they don't know me. But on behalf of all of the damages that they've experienced from a 5.0 magnitude earthquake in November of 2016, they have filed multiple lawsuits against 27 different energy companies, and I'll be interested to see how they pan out. Also, the Bureau of Land Management is currently under scrutiny for auctioning off 4,000 acres in East Texas and Oklahoma, but they've failed to adequately assess whether or not this land and what it's going to be used for, which is oil and drilling and fracking and wastewater injection, all of these things, they've failed to recognize whether or not these are going to cause a direct environmental impact. And it's not just to the water and it's not just to seismic activity, but also air quality as well. So what I would say to you is to stay informed. These things are happening right under our feet, literally and figuratively, and we need to say something about it. Some questions that I intend to answer in the near future are, if this is happening in Oklahoma and in Colorado and in these states that have been practicing it for so long, what will happen to other states? What will happen to other places that have been not in the oil and gas industry for as long? And also, how can we learn to change our habits in order to protect ourselves and the environment in the future? This is an ongoing discussion, and I just want to keep this up here because you need to remember that 2 billion gallons every day. 2 billion gallons every day, 365 days a year into our land forever. It's just crazy to me. And 10 felt earthquakes on average every day in Oklahoma. So imagine having 10 felt earthquakes here in the Pacific Northwest every day. It'd be weird. It'd be pretty weird. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for me? Yes? Yeah, that is a good question. I would say that because of the immense increase in seismic activity in that time, it's kind of difficult to assess and predict how many earthquakes are going to happen in that time. So sometimes if an injection site is shut down, they might stop, and other times they might continue. So it really is just depending on how the ground is responding. So I'm not quite sure if there was an increase in injection in that time. Does that answer your question?
500, 5 volt, and then 500 to from 500 to 900, and then 600. So it's a discrepancy before 2013, and in 2013, and then after 2013, 2014, 15, or 16. Mm-hmm. So it's a large jump.
Yeah, it is a large jump. I
was wondering if anything significant happens, like an oil company gets there, or maybe.
Yeah, I mean they're constantly injecting in those areas, and it could just be that they.
And is there a direct causal link between wastewater injection and increase in earthquakes?
Yes, that's what I was trying to investigate, and I'm still on the road of investigating it. But yeah,
Thank you.
The research that I have so far indicates that there is a pretty probable.
So you're saying there's a correlation?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
In your research, did you come across anywhere else in the entire world that is experiencing similar effects from oil well injecting in different countries or other places in the United States?
Not so much in different countries. I really was just focused on Oklahoma and the Midwest and those areas because they had been doing it for so long that I wanted to investigate the long-term effects of this, and I didn't really find anywhere else in the world that had been doing this for as long.
Okay. What size earthquake on the Richter scale can we begin to feel?
It depends on a couple of things, but it's usually around 4 or 5? Yeah, 4 or 5 magnitude, but it depends on the depth and all different kinds of things.
So the earthquakes that were 3 and above, would those affect anything?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, 3 and above, it's kind of a wide range, but there have been damages that they've experienced, and a lot of it also has to do with the infrastructure. They don't really have a lot of strong infrastructure, and a lot of their buildings are made out of bricks and stuff. So I wish I had some pictures to show you, I should have, but a lot of the pictures that you'll see is brick buildings that have collapsed and just family homes that aren't built strong enough to withstand these earthquakes.
Are they dumping near family homes?
I'm sorry?
Are they injecting the fluid in near family homes?
Yeah, they pump them near family homes, and there have been farmers, specifically farmers that have experienced direct effects and have had impacts to their water quality and agriculture as a result.
Okay, last question. Is there an alternative area that we can inject water that's not near homes?
Yes. But my main goal is to not have to inject. That's I think what I'm trying to get at is that this is not cool, and that I don't want them to be doing this anymore.